Da-da-dum.
Hey everybody, welcome to Nerdist Book Club. We are live on YouTube, Twitch, and on Facebook, which is amazing. My name is Hector, and as per usual, I am joined today by our other two amazing co-hosts of the show, Rachel Heine and Maude Garrett. Hi, y'all. Say hi, everybody.
Hi, everybody.
Hi. We can see the chat. We can see the YouTube comments, the Twitch comments, as well as the Facebook comments, just like the past couple of weeks. So keep dropping those in there. This is your home for the best digital book club on the internet. And we are so excited because today we are starting book 3 of a series. We've never done this before. It is the third book. We've never done a sequel before. We just have only done like book ones of all of the best series. But this is book 3. Rachel is attending to some cat litter, I assume. No, what happened?
I kicked my charger out. Hold on.
So this is the best digital book club on the internet. We have the best tech. We've got the best everything. And we're so excited that you guys...
It's just my feet, my legs.
We've got Rachel's feet, which now is going to be a weird thing. No, we don't have that. We don't have that.
Sorry.
We don't have that. Didn't mean that. All right. Everybody at home, thank you for watching. If you're new to Nerdist Book Club, introduce yourself in whatever chat you're in and let us know some of your favorite books. Hi, Becky's first time coming to you live. I've watched the other 4 videos. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much, Rebecca, for joining us. Becky, we really, really appreciate it. So do what Becky did. This is just like Fight Club. If it's your first night, you just have to tell us what books you like. That's all you have to do. And like I said earlier, tonight we are continuing our read through of the entire Shadow and Bone trilogy right here by Leigh Bardugo, with the first half of the third book, Ruin and Rising. If you missed our earlier episodes, head over to the Nerdist YouTube channel to catch up. They're all there. So, True Score, and thank you so much. Best book club. The other thing about the book club, too, is we usually have something to drink. Is anybody drinking anything tonight? I have a Sam Adams Boston Lager. Rachel, what do you have in our nice little old Alpha Book Club glass? What are you drinking?
Yes, I'm drinking Domaine Brasilier. It's a sparkling rosé from Silver Lake Wine if you're in LA. This is not an ad. I just really like that small little mom and pop shop. Very
nice. Maude, what are you drinking?
White Claw, yet again. I want this to be an ad. White Claw, hit me up. I swear to God, I drink you by the cup.
Pay us. Pay us to do this show.
It's going to be a White Claw summer. It's going to be a White Claw summer. Drink responsibly. Let us know what you're drinking. We really appreciate you guys being here. So before we jump in, this is the first time Maude and I have been reading these books, and Maude finished the homework like 6 days early. Like, she texted us pretty early. She was like, I'm already done with the assignment. And so my first question is, Maude, did you read ahead? Did you finish the entire trilogy? Did you finish the third book?
Nope.
Very nice.
Okay.
I am on chapter 12.
I only get upset. Okay, that's fine.
Okay, so you read a couple
only have ever been upset when I felt like you lied. But I've read it. I mean, if you want to read ahead. Just don't spoil anyone.
It got blown out of proportion big time. But the reason why I lied was because it was easier for me to not reveal anything if you didn't think that I had read it. And I had to say it afterwards, because if I'd said it beforehand, then you were looking for it. And I cannot lie with my face. My face, truth only. Truth face.
It's true.
So I mean, that was the best way to handle it. Yeah.
That's smart.
Today in a meeting, actually, we were just talking about Dan Casey, who, if you follow Nerdist, you've probably seen him on everything. Greatest guy, like infuriatingly talented and smart, as we were just saying. And we're on a Zoom call with like my boss, big people. And I don't know what he sent me. It was some joke. And I read it on Slack as we were in the Zoom, and I was Stefan. I couldn't keep it together. I have no poker face.
This joke has everything.
Hey, it's Thierry's birthday, by the way. Fournier. Yeah.
Happy birthday.
Yeah.
If it's anybody else's birthday, let us know in your chat.
I hope you don't mind that.
So we can say happy birthday, and even if it's not, but you want us to tell you happy birthday, you can lie. We have no way to check that stuff. So happy birthday, Mr. Thierry, and happy birthday to anybody else if you want to let us know. Maude.
To circle back. Yeah. Yes, I finished the homework in a day.
Yeah.
And the only reason why I'm up to chapter 12, because we're supposed to stop at 10, and I went a little bit further, is because I re-listened to the whole part again.
Mm-hmm.
So every single week I've listened to this twice, and I love doing that because there's just great foreshadowing and things that I missed the first time because I have the answers the second time. It's great.
Ooh.
That's what reading it this time has been for me. So I read this series over the holidays. I was sick, not with COVID, thankfully, but very alone, and I watched a lot of TV and listened to a lot of audiobooks. But listening to it, reading it again now, there's so much foreshadowing. Even in this part specifically as well, there were just kind of seemingly throwaway lines that I was like, this is gonna be a thing.
I love reading this series twice. I love it. There's a lot.
Awesome.
Similar with like mystery show, like Dark, for example, which I will never stop telling people to watch. It's on Netflix. It's a German time travel show. It is so good. And when you watch it again, after watching the whole 3 seasons, there are like, it puts Lost and all of those other Easter egg type OG shows to shame, because even in the first episode, there are things like on the bulletin board that you would never even think are part of the story in the end. So I love a rewatch or a reread.
So Rachel, while we have you on the full screen here, tell us what it's been like to reread up to this point in the Shadow and Bone trilogy. How are you feeling in terms of all of the foreshadowing, because you know how these 3 books are going to play out? How did you feel about the first half of this book, Ruin and Rising? What's your second opinion on it without any spoilers? Go.
So when I read them the first time, like I do with any kind of series that I'm obsessed with, I just charged straight through. I was like, book. This is all I'm doing. So it's been nice because I've been listening to it, and then when, working on notes and things, I'll read it, kind of skim it, but going through certain parts. And I think that a lot more of it makes sense to me character-wise, especially in the 3rd book, in a way that the first time I read it, maybe I was frustrated with certain things that now that I've come full circle and understand these characters a little bit better, it makes a lot more sense to me. I also have a lot more, I think, especially with this one, I was so anti-Mal by this end of the 2nd book. But I've, because people have, through this book club, shown different sides of him, and also reading it again and kind of in context, realizing, I think I see his kind of redemptive arc in this book. And I know people in the chat were saying, I think I like Mal now because he's growing up a little bit. And also it helps that I have seen some of the show, and TV Mal is like perfect, and I love him, so that helps a lot too.
Maude,
to see it on Friday.
Oh, it's coming out on Friday. That's right. Maude, what did you think of Mal, and what did you think of the first half of this book, or even without any spoilers? Because I know that you read a little bit past chapter 10, but I think you can still give us your overall thoughts on Ruin and Rising.
Yeah.
Go.
So first of all, I've never had a problem with Mal. I get it. I understand it. I've been in that situation, so I get the Mal thing. And he's great, especially in this book. I think he's just got a heart of gold, and it's chewing himself inside. And I get his sabotage sort of mindset and self-destructive behavior, because he's in a lose situation kind of deal. As far as this half of the book goes, honestly, I thought that there was a lot of filler, not killer, in terms of being underground and trying to get out, and then walking a lot. My God, I felt like, now Geek did The Great Hunt, which was the first Wheel of Time book, but all they did was war.
Guys, that reminds me, we should at some point read Lord of the Rings because my God.
Lots of walking, yeah.
But it was so funny because in my second read, I was really apprehensive because of the apparat. And I was like, I just don't know if I can go through those 4 chapters again. And then I realized it was only 1, but it felt so long because I hated the apparat so much. And then the second time through, it was like, pow, 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 pow. And I was like, all right, this is actually moving a lot quicker than I thought it was the first time round. But I think, again, that's knowing sort of like ahead what's happening and it's not dragging on as much because I know that it's going to not last so long. For me in this one, I really like the ensemble development. So we're starting to understand who these other Grisha are, what their purpose is. There's an LGBTQ relationship. There is an understanding of Zoya a little bit more, independent woman. She knows that she's horrible. I'm like, okay, self-aware about her, terrible attitude. But I thought it was a little slower because when you look at the first half of the previous book, we've already got the Fear Whip.
Yes, that's true. That's very true. And just to go off of what you're saying, Maude, we put up the comment a little bit earlier, but on the YouTube chat, Avery Adventurous, I think, is echoing what you're saying, but also this is a great comment. I like this section, said Avery. I thought it gave us more insight into the characters than in the other 2 books combined, which I really appreciated. There it is. And it's interesting because when Maude was talking about how she felt about the book just now, I was like, I don't disagree either. You're saying it felt like more filler, less killer. But then I'm also like, yeah, that's true. But it did also feel like we were getting more character ensemble stuff. What was the book you just held up, Maude?
I talked about the wrong book. This is Eye of the World. This is the first Wheel of Time book. Great Hunt, the second one. And Aaron rightly corrected me in the comments because the second book is a lot better than the first one. Look at this. Like, I was just done with that.
Yeah. That's great. That's very funny.
I totally understand that. And I agree. And I think we've talked about this a little bit before, just discussing all of these books, but you can, hi. Sorry, that's my best friend's internet is broken, so she was working here. She's just taking some wine.
I just came for some wine.
My boyfriend was so babe. I'll get my boyfriend here. Babe, come. Babe.
Maude,
oh, wait, I have one.
He's okay. I thought he was on set or something. I thought he was busy. Wow, that was a cruel joke you played on us, Maude. If everybody on the internet wants to say,
on you, is it, Hector?
Yeah, it's a joke on us. It's a joke on us. That's who it is. You tricked us. You tricked us. Everybody on the internets are saying hi, friend. Hi, friend. So Rachel, you can tell her afterwards. Everybody's saying hi.
Everyone's saying hi, Jess. Yeah, that's if you're a longtime watcher of the show, you may have heard me refer to her as my platonic life partner. So she's the love of my life. So she needed internet, so now she's here.
There we go.
So
I completely forgot what we were talking about, but Rachel, let me try to bring it back. Go. Okay, you're saying we've talked about it before. We've talked about it before.
So, Leigh Bardugo, the first book in this trilogy, is her first book. She's also said herself that she would change things that she learned along the way, and I think you can see how much she grows as a writer in this trilogy, especially. By the time you get to the third one, I think Zoya's a lot more well developed. She's less of the sort of caricature of a mean girl that's just mean because girls, I guess, whatever you think that is. And also, once you get to the duology, which I think the show picks up on, there are the multiple like the Crow's books, which take place after Shadow and Bone.
Can we read them?
Excuse me?
Can we read them?
I want to read them. Yeah.
Read them. Let's just read them.
We'll figure it out. We are going to read Murderbot and Princess of Mars. We're figuring out the details. Don't you worry. And we'll read those too because but I think you can I think the third one is where she starts to kind of take off, really. Like all of the ideas and characters. It's not that she's a bad writer, but the themes start to come together more. There are a lot more, I think, shades to Alina, Mal, Nikolai, and the Darkling in this section.
Yeah.
Even though I feel less like it dragged with the apparat and more so a little bit underground, but you get this great ensemble. So I was excited to meet all of them. Also, on Cat. Save new character.
I love that, like the whole part, she's like, he was really starting to scare me. I mean, he would drag his flint along the wall and like sparks would fly. One morning he just woke up with a mohawk and he's like, the cat's told me to do it.
I love him. I think he's such a great character. But you get those dimensions, and I definitely want to hear your thoughts on the kind of the main four and those variations. But that's why I think the show is going to improve upon everything, because it does bring other perspectives and the Crows, who are the best. But she's also grown a lot as a writer and as a creator, and the changes that she can make now, or the books that she's written since, really reflect that.
I agree wholeheartedly. I enjoyed the first part of this book, but I also think that it was an interesting place to start the story, because a lot of it was crawling through those caverns and living down there for a long time, and the characters were not in the positions they needed to be for the story to finish in this third book. And so I feel like this whole first half of the section, it was about, oh, is the Prince Nikolai, is he even alive? I think he is. And of course, as the reader, you're like, well, I know he has to be. Like they that's where the story's going to go. We have to get to the surface. And I think a lot of the
air, who could that be?
Yeah, exactly. So a lot of the stuff in this first section of the book, this first half, is like, okay, we're going to check in with each of these characters. And like you two are saying, we're getting a better idea of these sort of ensemble characters. It almost felt like, did anybody in the chat, or did you ever feel like, were you getting like Disney movie vibes? Not like a classic, like a Cinderella thing, but more like a
Disney Channel original movie?
No, like of the 90s or 2000s, something like Atlantis or even the way that, like, maybe this is a little strange, but even something in like The Lion King, where by the end, by like the third act, when all the characters came together and it was kind of like a big battle against like Scar and his forces, each of the characters had their own little sort of like, moments and,
but ensemble.
Yeah.
I would say yes, but only if Timon and Pumbaa admitted they were in a relationship.
Yeah, exactly.
Madeline.
They are.
Great point.
Madeline has a comment here. I like the symmetry between the apparat and Nikolai, located underground and literally in the sky, respectively. That's true. Very true. Very true. Chapter 5 on Hector, feeling that. Yeah. This sort of like Disney movie ensemble of all the characters having their little quirks and their fun little moments and everything. So I enjoyed it, but it did feel like a lot of the work was, okay, where did we leave the characters at the end of book 2? Everything was so desolate. They were just, having to retreat back into the caverns and have to kind of collect themselves from there. So let's start talking about the book. We're going to jump into it here. This first section, this first part, we kick off Ruin and Rising, where we left off in the apparat's White Cathedral. Alina is kept sequestered away from Mal, her friends, and even her followers. Meanwhile, above ground, the Darkling hunts his missing sun summoner and faces a new adversary, the Prince of the Air. So question, what did you think of the prologue and epilogue in each book? Remind me also, Rachel, what is the sort of prologue in this book? What happens in the opening here, in the before?
I think it's less about what happens and more a stylistic choice was what I was kind of thinking of, because and that really struck me reading it again in terms of the relationships in the book and how each book is bookended by the boy and the girl, the two ghosts, and then this, the sun summoner and the, their characters are sort of distilled down into how the world sees them in the prologue and the epilogue. And I found that really interesting. And also that we get this sort of, it's almost this legend, bird's eye view, Volcra view. I don't know. That didn't work, but this sort of like removed look at these characters and how they might end up in a legend or how people perceive them. And yeah, it seems like Rydia Rhodes liked the third person bit at the beginning.
Yeah, that's a great point too. I also felt like that was Lee Bardugo flexing a little bit, and it was a great indication that like these 3 books at least are not just a story about Alina, that you could really do a lot of different characters in this world, and there's a strong focus on world building. Look,
but it's not just about Alina, it's about Alina and Mal.
Correct. Absolutely.
Malina for the hashtag, which
Malina, that's perfect. But yeah, stylistically, that was a cool little departure from the first person narrative. And I've said this before, I love Star Wars, but it's not just a Luke Skywalker story. That world is huge and expansive, and you can do infinity things with it. I really enjoy Harry Potter. I think it's only Harry's story. I have yet to be convinced that the greater wizarding world can really work under its own, yeah, it's under its own like construct and rules and everything, that everything is designed to just help the Harry part of the story, which I think is great. I mean,
one of them, the series was called Harry Potter and and the other one was called Star Wars.
Star Wars Episode 4.
And one was
dead if it weren't for Hermione.
Totally. And the same goes for Leia. But that little opening made me think like, yeah, you know what? The Grishaverse has a lot of potential and everything. So Maude, would you like to take over and tell us what happens next in the book?
You know what? I really would. Except is Han Solo Slytherin or Gryffindor? This is going to mess with me.
He's Gryffindor, 100%. He's Gryffindor.
The thing about almost placed in Slytherin, I would say.
I disagree. I feel like the Sorting Hat would immediately, before it even touches his head, it'd be like Gryffindor. But Han would be like, "What are you talking about? I'm Slytherin." But everyone would be like, "Shut up, dude! Stop trying to be so tough." He is a smuggler, Maude, but he's still like the most heroic hero, good guy. Yeah.
My question about that too would be, are we looking at just Han Solo as originally conceived, because he's a little sweetie boy in Solo, but also that's the movie where they gave him the last name that he didn't need. So I liked the movie.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think now this needs to be, Rachel, you've got to assign somebody to write this if it's not already an article on Nerdist. Like, here's what each of the Star Wars characters' Harry Potter houses would be, and then just have a little.
It's already all over the internet. I'm not doing that.
Okay, great.
It already exists. We don't need to do that again.
Yeah. It's funny.
All right,
plenty of great people have done it.
Yeah.
Who was it saying that they were listening to the audiobook of this one and Sancta Alina? There it is, Brad was saying it. I was actually going to text you throughout the week, like randomly in I would be in my kitchen and I'd just go, Sancta Alina. I was like, it's just messing with me. All righty, here we go. Alina starts off each book the same, sickly and weak. In the first book, she's unconsciously suppressing her powers. In the second, she's hiding from the Darkling. And in this one, she's completely drained from facing the Darkling. And despite this, Alina is markedly different at the start of each story because she's, also balancing the whole I'm just a poor orphan, nobody loves me with, I'm not going to continue that one, but with I am so this power is corrupting me, and I am so tunnel vision, and I want more power, and I want to be almighty. So that's a really interesting balance. Anyway, how do you think that she's changed? Oh, I answered the question already, but how do you think she's changed throughout the trilogy?
Well, I think she's balancing like I'm just a poor orphan, nobody loves me, with this sort of like I crave all the power. And well, I mean, you pretty much said it, Maude. I think we got it.
Okay.
Any other thoughts on that, Rachel, on how Alina has changed throughout the trilogy, if at all?
Yeah, I was kind of, I noticed, especially in my second read through, that in this book especially, she is kind of taking the pieces of everything she's learned, good and bad, how to be, how not to be, how to be a leader, when you need to be scary, when you need to be charming,
a little ruthless.
Yeah, you do. And I think also in her, and we'll get into it, but especially if we're talking just like straight up at the beginning, the way that she handles the apparat is really interesting because she's drained of her power. Yes, she is feeling weak, but she accentuates it and tries her best to play sort of this meek, weak person who's given up so that he underestimates her. And throughout the book, when she's dealing with different people, especially I think in her relationship with the Darkling when they're force Skyping, that I feel like all the relationships are so much more complex in this book because it's not like she thinks the Darkling is pure evil and has no feelings for him, but she's also not the sort of starstruck, kind of naive girl from the first book. And those two things exist at the same time in how she's dealing with him. And she can she sees what he's doing and doesn't let it affect her the same way that it did before. And but
she still can't walk away completely. There was a time in that moment
connected.
Who just found that she's like, oh, I'm visiting him. Oh, here I am. Oh, I've drawn to him again. And she's like, I should leave, but I don't. And I'm like, oh, here we go again. If you should do it, tell me why you're not. If you're going to stay, why are you going to stay? Because I haven't learnt enough about whatever this tether is for her to seek comfort in the Darkling when he has repeatedly tortured, maimed, not only her, but people that she loves. And she's still going, but I just feel really comfortable. No, you feel comfortable around Mal, who you've known since you were a child, who has your back. So that piece didn't click for me.
Maybe she feels a little too comfortable around Mal. Maybe when you've known somebody that long, it's just kind of like you maybe take them for granted. And maybe the Darkling, I'm just asking questions here. I don't think these are the answers. I don't know if they're the answers, but is it just a sexual attraction with the Darkling? Remember, he's Ben Barnes. Keep that in mind, Maude. It's Ben effing Barnes.
You can't. Oh my God. Just a side note. He apparently reached 1 million Instagram followers and posted a poem he wrote to his followers today. It's upsetting. You should watch it.
Is it him reading the poem?
He wrote, it's like a poem to his followers.
I was about to read it. I was about to embarrass Ben Barnes, but I don't think he can be.
No, absolutely not. But I do think, Maude, you make a good point. It makes sense that she's drawn to different things in all three of them, and she doesn't know who she is or what she's capable of still. She's grown a lot, I think, but part of her is worried that she'll fall too deeply into the darkness. And part of her is worried she won't be able to be ruthless enough. And when the first time she goes to see the Darkling, 4 Skypes, is when she's kind of dealing with Mal treating her very differently. She doesn't know where they stand. And it feels like there is this connection that is almost not up to her because of they are just they complement each other and the other way. They're polar opposites and they should challenge each other. And I think she goes back to that when she feels alone because she's worried that maybe I am a monster. Maybe I am going to be just like him. That's how I interpreted it. Possibly. Am I projecting? I don't know.
They keep saying it like calls to like, drink every time that comes up. But then the other thing is we learnt in the first book, real quick, that he has this, he was able to seduce her so effortlessly because he has this draw. This darkness and that shadow is just so exalting. It is just luring. And I think that even Genya said that. She's like, oh, sweetie, are you falling under it as well? Everyone does. He's just that kind of person who can get that. So I kind of wish that was dialed in a little bit more. So when she's like, I don't know why I can't leave, it's this thing where she's like, oh my gosh, he's got this hold, he's got this pull, and I think they kind of touch on that a little bit. But that comment before, talking about pushing Mal away, Rydia, sorry. I kind of understood her pushing Mal away a little bit, but as a mirror to Mal pushing her away. Feeling drawn to the Darkling because of what he used to say about them being the same and alone together. I think that's the thing. She has no guidance with this untapped full-on power, and he's basically the only answer to that. But she's not really asking questions about it. She's not using him as like a kind of mentor or a teacher. You
can't trust him either.
I know.
It also feels like, and we talk about, we talk a lot about psychology in the books that we read, but it does really remind me of the kind of toxic relationship that can come from a narcissist and a very empathetic person or someone who has themselves been abused in some way, because it's like a magnet, and one person, the non-narcissist, gets kind of sucked away into that.
Rachel, and to come over to wherever your house is and yell back at those people yelling.
I asked earlier if you could hear it, and someone said no. I don't know what's happening out there.
Well, in case anybody wasn't aware, it's the kids from ages 8 to 12, they love to play scream at each other only from 5 to 6 p.m. wherever their time zone is. It's great. It's great. It's the best game.
Domestic. As long as it's not like,
No, I feel like it's definitely kids playing, but maybe I'm wrong. But it has that energy of like it's okay, Rachel. No, sit down. It's kids. You don't have to go and tell them to not yell. It's fine. It's apartment.
My window is open a crack, so hopefully that helps a little bit.
It's apartment living, folks. But no, that's how kids love to play. Kids are like, we're gonna play Star Wars. I'm gonna scream at you like I'm gonna. That's how they play.
Book goes in a pool, you scream.
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry, Game Wizard 001 is basically. Oh, Jesus, is basically. Can you still?
Pretty great.
This is I couldn't have said it better. I think that her going to see him is almost her delighting in the fact that now she understands what he was doing to her, and he came to her whenever she felt super alone and isolated. And I wonder if that's sort of how she's feeling too, that now she's starting to come into her own. She is seeing through his bullshit a little bit. And even though she's toying with him, as soon as she says no to him, he's like, I will destroy you.
Yeah.
He's like classic abusive partner for sure.
I also wonder if there's going to be any moment where we're going to learn more about this connection. Maude, you said it earlier, like we don't know enough about this connection. It does sort of feel like while reading this, it feels like the first time you watch Star Wars: The Last Jedi, where you're like, wait, what the hell is happening? What is this weird power? Who's doing this? And then at some point in that movie, you get the revelation where it's like, oh, it was Snoke. Okay, Snoke was doing it. Like whatever dumb explanation it was. It's not dumb. I love the movie. I think it's the best. It's my favorite. But that thing of like where you're like, you don't know what the heck this connection is. I have a feeling that we're still going to get some revelation where Alina is going to fully understand what it is. And there's going to be a reveal that like, oh, she was using it to her own advantage, and now she's going to be able to use it against the Darkling somehow. Now she's going to be able to like, to siphon that power and do something like that. Is maybe what it feels like. Maybe we'll get that. But
this is also Kat's point down here. This is also a narcissistic tendency to be like, I'm the only one who'll understand you. I'm the only one that you need. You don't need any of your other friends. So it was interesting that the apparat was trying to isolate her from her friends and any allies that she had, whilst the Darkling was also trying to say, you can only really understand, I'm the only one who really understand you.
Classic.
My gosh, no wonder she's just a little bit of a mess upstairs, because there's just so much happening. And then Mal and her have a really deep connection, and it's like, very strong. And he really does understand her and supports her. Like to the end, he's finding a way to support her. But then Nikolai's got the army.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's also really tactical and very clever.
And all of these men are so hot. Okay, here's what happens next.
I have one more point that's not just they're so hot, but it is true. But I do think that in the first instance that she goes to visit the Darkling in their magic connection, she like feels the way. It's not that she doesn't feel drawn to him the way that she did before, but she's so much more aware of it now and aware of how that works. And she even, I think, calls it the pathetic orphaned part of herself, which again, if you have someone who is abusive, maybe a narcissist, and someone who has never felt like they belonged and never felt like they've known real healthy love, they're not going to know what that looks like. And I think that Alina is in that, at least in the beginning, is in that kind of position. And now that she's been ready to die for this, she's been ready to put her own life on the line to try to save everyone else and to free Mal of her, because she feels that she's the burden, she's the problem. I think seeing her kind of claim that, even if it's maybe not advisable that she go Skype with the Darkling, because he might find like he can use that against you. It feels like her trying to like claim her own power back.
Totally.
Which people said in the chat better than I did.
Yeah. So we get back into the book, and here's what happens in the first few chapters. The book is setting the scene underground just before Mal, Genya, Zoya, and David. Is it Genya or Genya? Genya? Genya. So I'm reading and I'm not doing the audiobook. Zoya and David help.
A really great voice. She like only does a few different distinct ones. Genya's is great.
Very cool. What's it sound like?
Alina, it's Genya here.
Ooh.
Very soft, silky, delicate voice.
Okay, very nice. All right. So just before Mal, Genya, Zoya, and David help Alina gain the upper hand on the Aberrat and eventually escape his clutches. So what did you think of the gang's plan? And who is Alina the Saint? How is she different from Alina the Sun Summoner and from Alina that Mal grew up with? Those are some great questions. So first, the gang's plan. What did you make of it, Maude?
Well, because it's 5:36, I'm going to go through this super, super quick.
Okay.
Gang's plan, sure, great. Nice one, Scoobs. Who is Alina the Saint? She's someone who have people worshipping her. Who is Alina the Sun Summoner? She's a Grisha discovering her powers. Who is Alina the orphan? The person that she thought she could only ever be. Boom. Next.
Oh, interesting. I feel like it's a little bit of a Superman situation with the three Alinas, where like Alina the Saint is almost like Superman the superhero. Not that people worship him, but it's the
scarier. She brands them.
That's true. That is very true.
That's what I think is interesting. Is she is, and the title to Ruin and Rising, which Genya, which we'll get to later in a very like harrowing, intense scene that I would love to talk about, but I will share in advance, and we will say it again. Trigger warning for sexual assault and rape. But the fact that Genya says, I'm not ruined, I am ruination.
Ooh.
I think that quote I don't know why, probably because I read it so fast the first time, but that really stuck to me, that Alina is sort of this like armor that she's wearing to be able to go into battle. And the real Alina is some combination of the three.
I like that. I would agree with that. The reason I brought up Superman is because in the Superman mythos of the past 20, 30 years, they've really pivoted over to like the real Superman is the kid Clark who was raised in Smallville. And that to me reminds me of Alina, who is the orphan that Mal grew up with, where I'm like, I still think that at her core, she is that person. But these other, when she brands the guy, she's doing that for a very specific reason. And then we get her inner monologue of her being like, Jesus, I can't believe I'm doing this. Okay. Like that, that she still is that kind of person that that grew up with her experience, and these other personas that she's taking on, she's doing it for political or specific, necessities that she needs to do. So it is 5:39. Let's keep going. Let's get through the rest of these questions. Along with most of the other surviving Grisha, Alina and Mal make their way up to the surface to start their hunt for the third amplifier and hopefully find Nikolai. What do you think Mal means when he says that he won't fail Alina again? Is this Mal's redemption tour? Maude.
I am become sword. Next.
On the trek out of the tunnels, we learn more about our ragtag group.
We already addressed.
You skip it? Okay. Yeah, side characters. You're right.
Talking about the ensemble.
Yep. Once they finally reach the surface, Alina is relieved to discover her powers are still intact. Tamar and Tolya lead the path to one of Nikolai's former haunts, hoping to find their friend and prince of the air alive and well. Unfortunately, a local militia recognizes Mal and then Alina and tries to take the group hostage until Nikolai saves the day. They manage to escape on his new airship, but not before Alina has to use the cut on one of the militiamen to save Mal's life.
Say, you were talking about how you can kind of see moments in this.
Yes.
The fact that he's like, here's a really good dancer and he's a really good shot. Boom. I was like, I want to see that so bad. That is so well done.
Yep. Somebody said in the chat earlier, I really hope that the show does well, that they're very excited about the show because they want to see moments like that from the second and third book, like in the show at some point, and I feel like we're all kind of feeling like maybe season 1 is going to be book 1 or a version of book 1 within those 8 episodes of the first season. There it is. Gonna want to see those later books. Yeah, that's going to be a great moment. So
I want all the seasons.
Yeah. Look, man, fingers crossed, if Netflix does what Netflix usually does, we will hopefully at least get 3. It feels like that's their sort of lucky number right now is 3 seasons.
Zakasor.
Yeah.
Another one. When Nikolai comes, is that impossible? Don't say it. Like between Mal and Alina, like again, that moment was just chef's kiss.
Maude, do you like Nikolai more or less now?
Oh, okay. So Nikolai is the king of consent and nothing is sexier.
Yeah. He learned his lesson. He learned.
Yeah.
He's not trying to kiss her. He's not and he's like, the next time I kiss you, it's only going to be because you want to. You're thinking of me and you're not thinking of him.
Yeah.
And that's him being like, I want you to want me. And then he's like, you know what, even if we don't have romance, we're not romantic, but we work together as a team. And then who knows, maybe one day we'll start feeling that way. But I love the fact that he's not his father.
Mm-hmm.
And
he held his father accountable. So Nikolai,
but that's not even that technically wasn't even his father. But still it was. The king was still the guy who kind of was there raising him, not biologically his father, but you're right. He is not the man who raised him. He's not his father, and he still held him accountable. And there we go.
His father in every way that matters, whether or not it's someone else when someone raises you, kind of.
I'm sure.
They gave the answer to that a little bit quickly. Oh, here's a ring. By the way, Mum said it was some, merchant. All right. Anyway.
My dad. Anyway, I'm Nikolai. Pretty cool. That's Nikolai. I don't know if this is Clever Girl's intention, but anytime I read a comment from Clever Girl, especially now with this new chat feature that we've got, and we see that great little little Lego Velociraptor. What is that little dinosaur? Was it a little Lego? It looks like, or some kind of a toy,
or like a little one of the maybe Jurassic World, like figures.
I definitely hear it in the voice of a raptor, so it's like love Nikolai, like a raptor is coming in and being like. Like I read this book, it's good, and then goes back into the bushes and is waiting until
they're going.
Clever girl. Oh, that's a great comment. Good insight. And then you get. All right, now here's what's happening next. Safely tucked away at Nikolai's hideout in the Fjorden Mountains, romances start to form and develop. Tamar with Nadia, Genya, and
there
David.
There are exclamation points in the script.
We'll take it away, Rachel, if you wanted to exclamation.
Okay, fine, I'll do it because I included a note to you in the note.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Safely tucked away at Nikolai's hideout in the Fjorden Mountains, romances start to form and develop. Tamar and Nadia, we called it queer representation. Hell yeah. Genya and David, Alina and Nikolai. This wasn't the part I was talking about. Where did that go? It's gonna be, I don't know. Oh, it's later.
Oh,
damn it.
Keep going.
Alina also reunites with Baghra, who is still pissed at her use of power and everything she's done, basically, but eventually decides to help train her. 2 questions on this one. What do you think about Misha? Some people are like, oh, they introduced a kid, but I personally love Misha. And what secrets is Baghra hiding? Because she's definitely hiding some.
It's a good question. I like the kid character. I thought that was fun. Because the kid had a great moment where like Baghra asked a question, right? Like,
Yeah.
was it because
not good? Come on. Yeah.
And then Alina was like, "Oh, you little kid," that kind of moment. He was like, "I'm just a little Russian kid." That was real cute. What secrets is Baghra hiding? What do you? I don't know. I think she's a really, really interesting character and a great take on the mentor type character. And I like that she shows back up
last time. Remember? That's
absolutely.
what was missing for me.
Absolutely, yeah. So, I don't know if I'm picking up on any like secrets that she may be hiding. So I don't know. Ooh, this is very interesting. We've got here in the script next, worst character ever nominee, Sergey, accidentally reveals Genya's.
He's obviously suffering severe trauma.
Yeah.
It's like super interesting. And I wanted to talk about Sergey because it's like he got effed up at the end of the last book where, you know, his girlfriend was just cut from like, you know, over. And he was like rocking her, being like, oh my God. He never bounced back from that. And I think that also when like you talk to Baghra about it, where she's like, yeah, he's not so good. Like he's kind of, what was the great quote? Suffering or something. And she's like, oh, suffering's as cheap as clay and twice as, you know, available or something. So basically saying everyone's suffering. It's what you do with it. And I think that that's what's really hard because their expectation is that if you go through some shit, you've got to pull yourself together because the world doesn't wait for you. And it really is a big thing of like, you know, it's not what happened, but how you move on from it. And Sergey couldn't. He started getting agoraphobic. He started getting like severe trauma. And everyone's like, oh, we're inconvenienced by him. And it's like, holy hell. And then Alina kind of, you know, gives him a little bit of an mercy. Out, I guess. Yeah.
Mercy for sure.
I feel like even before that, which obviously that is a huge loss, but even before that, every time he was already not a nice person. And I think, there's the quote. And I do think that they do all have to kind of get their shit together. But he also it's kind of the thing where if you are already a nasty person and you go through something, like, of course people are going to feel for you, but
there's less.
You already don't have that same kind of connection. Like Alina, he was just awful to her from the get-go, didn't support her, you know, so I think it speaks to Alina that she had that kind of compassion for him and was like, let's get him out of here. He's not doing well. Let's take care. Like I mean, you have the sort of empathy side that he's clearly struggling, and also the kind of strategic side, which is like, he's not going to be able to help us here.
We don't necessarily have to read that out if you don't want to, but at the same time, that's what I was feeling. I was feeling like it was handled really poorly. It was like causing me a bit of distaste as well, where it was just like, just the whole, oh, you've had it bad, everyone's had it bad. It was so dismissive on how like people with trauma are faced, or like, you know, like that lack of empathy, that lack of support. And I think what you're saying, Rachel, is really interesting, where it's like, it's an individual thing. If you're awful to all the people, and then when you need something, like it's that whole bank system, like if you deposit favors or you take favors or whatever, but if you're just so awful, like your coffers are empty. And by the time they're like, I really need help, you're like, I got nothing to give. Like,
and even though I don't like Sergey as a person, I don't think he deserved that trauma. And if I were there, I probably would have been nice to him, even though I hate him. You know?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it speaks to how it ended up being a character moment for, like, Sergey's storyline ended up being a great character moment for Alina, because it just goes back to when there is a character like that in a story who is a real POS, and then they need empathy and they need help. What kind of character is going to provide that, despite that person's background or personality or whatever? It's usually the hero type characters. And that's great. I think that's a great hero moment for Alina, for her to be like, what if we sent you off at the, on this part of the war or whatever, and then you didn't have to, he immediately was like, yes, I'll take that.
I can't wait to continue the conversation next week.
Ooh, why? Because you read a few chapters ahead. Okay, all right. That's great. Okay, so but back to Sergey. Like, this is also a guy who according to the script here, Rachel, he accidentally reveals Genya's true identity to Nikolai, who takes her to face the king. And you have a question in here, general discussion. What did you think about this section? This is sort of what we talked about, but were you also referring to the section with the king, that scene as well?
That entire scene, I think.
Really interesting. Really, like really engaging scene for sure.
I will just say, for me, I thought that the reveal about how the poison was administered was
evidence as well. She said evidence.
Agree, Miss Necromancer. Absolutely agree. And that was such an indictment of the king immediately that I didn't sneak anything in. It came from when he assaulted me, when he raped me. And the fact that she is not only in this book after we've discovered what the Darkling has done to her, that she still has her wit, that she kind of uses her scars and the way that she looks to scare some of the apparat's followers, and she makes really dark jokes about it, and that she faces him kind of the way that Mal did, where he just said, yeah, I'll own up to my... She took it a huge step further, saying, I'll own up to what I did if he owns up to what he did. And I also think that Nikolai standing up for her is it just solidifies him as a good guy and an ally. And I also really appreciated the scene, the scenes after that whole confrontation where David tries to be there for her, and she feels like, and Maude, you had pointed this out, I think last week, that it felt like, oh, now that she's broken or ruined, which is where this quote comes from, that now he wants to take care of her. And he just, I think, one of the most romantic and sweet parts of the book. And I think that, and that's the part of ruin. She's like, I'm not ruined. I am ruination. Like that. Ooh, chills.
It was great. And I also just say, to kind of wrap up talking about this section, I also really appreciated that it feels as though this book, being what it is, being the sort of genre or category at the bookstore that it's in, which is YA, being what, considering who the audience is probably mainly going to be, which are probably going to be mostly young people and young women, I'm really, really appreciative that scene exists and that it's in the book, and that even that the word rape was said as part of the because I feel as though in the grand scheme of fiction and fantasy stories and these kinds of big popular stories, that the past 10 years has really decided to tackle some of this subject matter in a responsible way and be like, let's actually address some of this stuff because it is a reality. And instead of trying to shy away from it or anything like that, I just really, really appreciate it. And I thought that it was great that young people are going to be reading this, and that section was in there, and it was about accountability. And it was about, everything you guys were talking about. So, okay. So
just one more word on that. What I thought was super responsible in terms of this was a man stepping in to oust a man. Instead of covering it up, instead of, no, he's a good guy. He's my stepdad. He raised me, whatever it is. Like, no, there's no way he could have done it. It's her fault. Look at how pretty she is. She's just a servant. There's so many ways that they could have like dismissed or, just downgraded her. And so like for that moment to occur, that was the empowering moment. That was stop protecting the abusers. And I liked that.
Yeah, because it is more impactful, unfortunately, when men call out other men, when white people call out other white, it is a tragic thing, but it is part of, I think, privilege and human nature. And it's a conversation I know that Maude and I have both had where it's like, you call them out. I can call them out all day long, and I will. But it will mean more if you do, unfortunately.
Absolutely. So on to somewhat lighter fare. Let's talk about my favorite part of these books, the romance, parentheses, JK, sorry, Hector. That's where the note is. But great question. Great question for everybody in the chat. Who do you think is best for Alina in the long run? I'm going to say Mal with a little asterisk. I need Mal to make some big moves in this book. I need Mal to do some more selfless and to say some more things to really get me to be like, yes, you've grown since the type of person you were just a little bit ago with Alina. And also vice versa. I feel like Alina is growing into the person she's going to be. And so I feel like when Alina's there, I want Mal to be there as well. They can still be Alina and Mal, but I want them each to be like, wow, these past 3 books, we've gone through some stuff and now we're changed and now we're better for one another. That's who I'm going to say. Maude?
Okay, so I thought about this a lot. And that moment where he's like, please say goodnight, Alina. I love this scene. So good. And he's like, wow. And he's just like, trust me, just do it. Tell me. I can't tell you. I want to hear it anyway. I was like, ah! And then he was just like, because I want to push you up against that wall and kiss you until you forget another name's man exists. And I was
finally, Mal, come on.
There it is. And I'm just like, and she says goodnight. And I was like, ah. And I was like, why don't you just have like let's just understand that politics is at play here, that it can't happen and that it shouldn't happen. So let's just have one night where you just get it out. And then you have the understanding where it's like, I'm always going to love you. You're always going to be amazing. We got it done. Shake hands. Like now we can move away, because you got to just scratch that itch of sexual tension that's been happening for way too long. But we know at the end of the day that Nikolai is really good for Alina, because Alina needs to be shown the ropes so much more. Mal believes in her, but Nikolai gets to show her. And I think that that's the more important thing for her position.
I agree. Rachel, who do you think is best for Alina? I mean, I know
like Alina to be happy on her own, and that's how I feel about a lot of ships, actually, unless they're really well done. But I see a lot more in Mal now. When I was reading it the first time, I was just like, why not Nikolai? Because I love Nikolai, but I'm not Alina, so it's not fair for me to tell her who to love necessarily, but Team Nikolai for me.
Team Nikolai. Okay, well, just a quick question, Rachel. Is Nikolai in the series? Do you know, or can you not say because that would be considered a spoiler if he's in the Netflix show? Has he been cast? I don't know. I haven't been keeping up with the casting announcements. No, you're saying okay. It looks like you're saying no. Okay, great.
I was hoping maybe.
Yeah.
He'd pop in somewhere, but no. So,
but he doesn't pop in the story until the second book, so it stands to reason that we would probably not see that character until season 2. It's just like how we didn't get Carnage in the first Venom movie, only at the very end, Woody Harrelson, and now we're gonna let there be Carnage. Exactly. Same sort of thing.
Like that.
All right, everybody. Well, we are okay. Thank you. Yeah, the chat is answering for me. So we are winding down this episode, the first section of the 3rd book. So your homework for this week is to finish the book. Very easy homework. Ruin and Rising. Finish the book. Plus, this is very exciting. We're going to be doing a bonus episode Friday, April 30th. That's not this week, next week. We'll remind you again about it next week. Friday, April 30th at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time to chat about the Netflix adaptation so that you have about a week to watch it all. So binge the series starting this Friday. And then join us next week so we can break it. What's that, Rachel?
You could do 1 episode a day, or you could do what I do and watch it all in one day.
Yeah. What about that's very nice. About an episode a day, I feel like is usually good internet etiquette for asking people to watch like a Netflix thing. And Netflix's model is you're gonna get all 8 episodes on Friday. So
I wish it was weekly because I think the discussions would be really fun, but
Oh, sure. Oh, sure. But yeah,
but
now
also I want to watch it all at once. So.
Exactly. The discussion is going to be about the whole thing, the whole kit and caboodle. And don't forget, you can always let us know your thoughts on the reading on Twitter using hashtag Nerdist Book Club, hashtag Nerdist Book Club, or by joining the discussion on Geek Bomb's Discord. And speaking of Discord,
we're
Maude,
going to go over to Geek Bomb's Discord to the reading, hashtag reading, and the book club call that we do. We jump on a call, all three of us, and anyone who's signed up to at least the lowest perk of Patreon. We all get to jump in there and have a chat and discussion. I'm super excited to talk with everyone about it because we're growing in numbers every single week, which is so cool. Yeah, we got a really cool little after show community happening.
Absolutely. And we are
predictions for the next book. I will obviously abstain, but
yeah, this is going to be great.
Y'all have any?
We're about 2 weeks out also from our next book. Rachel, are we announcing that right now, or are we going to do it next week?
Well,
How do you want to do it?
We're going to do it next week.
Okay, we're going to do it next week.
Let's just say the runoffs, we're going to read both of those at some point. We're just figuring out the schedule.
Okay,
so
great.
Princess of Mars and Murderbot book 1. So at least one of those, but both will be read throughout the course of book club.
That's very good. That's excellent. All right. So, like we said, guys, head over to the Geek Bomb Discord right now so that we can keep talking about Ruin and Rising. We'll see you next week. Go finish the book, watch the Netflix show. We'll remind you about it next week. And have a good rest of your week and be safe. And we'll see you then. Bye.
I'm going to go yell at my neighbor kids.
I think they're done. They're all screamed out.
They're done. Yeah.